Pardon the interruption, but I'm Pablo Torre, and it is Friday the 13th, Tony. Are you superstitious?
Yes, superstitious and super anxious, and that is a bad combo. Bad,
Yeah.
not good.
That's
So
something I'm
I
familiar
have
with.
I have certain things I have to wear in certain occasions. I have a flying shirt, for example, which is very frayed, but I still wear. I have amulets that I touch and stones that I carry around with me all the time.
Stones?
Amulets, but I'm not afraid of the 13th. Is that called triskaidekaphobia? I don't have that because I was born on the 13th, so I'm good with that. Welcome
Plus
to
the
PTI,
amulets.
boys and girls.
Yeah.
Wilbon has turned his back on you again, so here to do his work today is our great friend, the host of the podcast, Pablo Torre Finds Out, Mr. Pablo Torre. No, that's pretty weak. And we begin today with the Rams beating the 49ers last night in the rain in a rather boring affair in which neither team scored a touchdown. The final was 12-6 for the Rams, who are now 8-6 and in playoff contention. Pablo, what is your focus coming out of that game? The Rams on the rise or the 49ers on the fall?
It has to be the Niners. It has to be the plunge. It has to be the fact that when I watch the Niners, I see the exact opposite of what the Kansas City Chiefs have been this season, which is to say that the Chiefs feel like they're pulling games, wins out of thin air, like they are themselves sorcerers with amulets. Meanwhile, the Niners are doing the opposite. This is the fourth game, Tony, that they have blown after having a lead of at least 3 points in the fourth quarter to divisional opponents. All NFC West, those losses. And so they seem snake bitten, but also in a more substantive, you might even argue, they're flawed. They are hurt. And Brock Purdy, who I praised not as long ago as yesterday for having the best game of his season last week, threw a pick into double coverage in the fourth quarter that makes you think this is the guy you want to pay all that money to. So they have problems that are manifest in all these ways.
So I need to start with this, which is, I don't believe I had this right. Yesterday on this show, either Michael Wilbon or myself made the comment to bet the over because the Rams and the 49ers had killed it the previous week. They had gone to 82 points combined. The number was 48.5, so get rich on that, bet that. And since Wilbon wasn't on the show yesterday, it must have been me who did that. And it was unbelievably stupid. And this is why I don't go to FanDuel and I don't go to DraftKings and I'm not on ESPN Bet because I'm an imbecile. All right? Now, I'm going to take another point of view from yours, and that is I'm going to focus on the Rams' rise because to me the 49ers' fall is a negative story at this point that can be explained by two very simple things. One is they've been terribly injured over the course of the year. They really have been terribly injured. And two, there is this phenomenon of the Super Bowl hangover for the team that doesn't win. And they very often don't make the playoffs, and that is what's happening right now. I see the Rams exactly the same way I saw them last year. Very disappointing in this regard. They have this terrible start. I think they started out 1-4, and since then maybe they're 7-1. This is what they did last year. Bad start, good finish, make the playoffs. And Pablo, I think they're going to win the division. They've got the Jets next, and then they've got games at home in L.A. against Arizona and Seattle division opponents, whereas Seattle has Green Bay, they have Minnesota, at Chicago, which they'll probably win, but then at the Rams. The Rams have already beaten Seattle in Seattle, so I like their chances.
Yeah, if the NFC West is an attrition contest, I think the Rams and the schedule, they have the big advantage. My lament, though, with the Niners, briefly, is simply this. I had been sold a bill of goods when it came to Kyle Shanahan, that it actually didn't matter as much who was playing quarterback, who was on the field, because the scheme, the brain of the coach, ameliorated all these concerns. And now we have tested, in fact, how essential it is to have healthy bodies and a quarterback who is not going to bleep up. But I digress, because there's a subplot, Tony, to last night's game. It's been receiving as much attention as the outcome I was referring to. Niners linebacker Devondre Campbell declined to enter that game in the third quarter. Campbell had started most every game this season, but not last night's. And it wasn't until the other linebackers all got injured that he revealed that he did not want to play. George Kittle called Campbell's decision selfish. Travarius Ward called it bleep-a-bleep. So, Tony, what do you make of Campbell's decision and his team's reaction to it?
So this is a real stunner. What do you mean you don't want to play? I mean, I want to know, is that a spur-of-the-moment decision? Did it just occur to you in that moment? Or did you have the thought about this, let's say, before the game? Because if you had the thought about it before the game, just tell the coaches so maybe they can maneuver the injured list. I mean, if you're not going to play, let them get somebody who can play. I don't feel that this is defensible. I watched a couple of people on television earlier today try to defend it, try to explain it by saying it's his first year on the club and he doesn't really feel comfortable there, or he'd been starting for a while and he wasn't starting this game, so he wasn't very happy. That doesn't cut it with me. You sign a contract, you take the money, you have to go play in the game. This is far worse to me, Pablo, than Anthony Richardson when he tapped out in a game 5 or 6 weeks ago and just said, I'm going to sit out a few plays because I'm tired. I mean, this is, you're letting everybody down here. You're letting your teammates down. They have a right to expect you to be out there. No. What did I write down? Yeah, I wrote down you got to cut him. And if you're not going to, and if you do cut him, I wonder who gives him his next job. I always like to consult my notes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like that you look down at your notes and it just says, fire him. Like, yeah, good reminder.
Yeah.
Which I think is logical, by the way. I think it is logical. I was reminded in my search, because I like to find stuff out, I was reminded of the possibility that maybe this was Vontae Davis 6 years ago, thereabouts. He leaves the NFL mid-game at halftime. Doesn't come back. He's out of the sport. And for me, we're at a point, absent a declaration that I am done with football, where I don't know if he will be readily employed after he is let go. This feels like one of those cardinal sins. Like the NFL has a bit of there's a bit of like a samurai's code when it comes to dressing, it seems. If you've dressed up for the game, you are expected to be available because everybody else is getting hurt to support the larger mission. And this feels like a thing it's hard to come back from on that level.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was struck by the fact that the people who commented on the 49ers slammed it because you're letting the whole team, you're letting the guy next to you down all the time. It's just,
and he's banged up.
It's really not a good look. It's indefensible to me unless, and this is what we don't know, unless there are extenuating circumstances that we are unaware of. If that doesn't exist, when you sign the contract to play football and they call on you to play, you got to play. Let's move to the Buffalo Bills at the Detroit Lions on Sunday, the most anticipated game of the weekend. The Bills are 10-3. They're coming off a shootout loss to the Rams, where Josh Allen had 6 touchdowns. Lions are 12-1. They have not lost since September. They're coming off a mini-bye after winning a Thursday ago, close and late over Green Bay. Pablo, what percentage chance do you give the Bills of ending the Lions' 11-game win streak?
25%, which is to say I really like Detroit. And I say that because I've watched the Lions all season, and I've watched the Chiefs also, and I know the difference. The Lions are the team that actually has earned that record. No sorcery, no luck really necessarily quite as involved. And when I look at what happened to the Bills last week against the Rams that we just discussed, their problem has been stopping the run. They're 26th, I believe, in stopping the run in the league. And, of course, the Lions have 2 really good running backs. They're a top 5 team at ramming the ball down your throat. Seems like a bad recipe to me. Give me Detroit.
Yeah, so I really like the Bills, and I really think Josh Allen is a legitimate MVP candidate. And I think playing indoors will probably help them. And I think they probably need this game more than Detroit, because even if Detroit loses, if I'm correct on this, they still retain, at least for the moment, the number 1 seed in the NFC. But I look at Detroit, they're rolling through. I mean, they actually look like a team of destiny. It reminds me, I'm going back to 1991 and the Washington team that I wrote columns about, the bandwagon team. And they rolled through quite like this. They lost. First, they opened the season, they won a game 45-0. It was against, coincidentally, Detroit. And I'm sitting there and I'm writing a column and I go, what are we looking at here? They lost 2 games the entire season by a total of 5 points. And I see Detroit in much the same way as just sort of rolling through. I mean, they win games close and they win by large margins, and they win on defense and they win on offense. They win every single way you're supposed to win. And the only reason people are not completely enthralled with them is because their history is bleak. Because they haven't
Yes.
won anything
Yes.
in 3,000 years, and that's why.
I do like the idea of you watching that bandwagon team, consulting your notes, and it just says, they are great. It's like, yeah, they are great. So too is this team.
Yeah.
And you're right about the close
Yeah.
and late and also like the blowout stuff. This is a complete team whose only threat right now is the injuries they've suffered to the defense. That is, of course, a problem. But I like Detroit as a complete team that can beat you up, throw the ball surgically with Jared Goff, and of course, yes, hold up when you're trying to get into their end zone.
Pablo,
They're pretty good at that.
The last time they won a championship was 1957. Not only long before you were born, that's long before, not long before, but it's before Wilbon was born. That's pre-Wilbon. That is a long time ago. Let us take a break. Coming up, do the Steelers or Eagles have more to prove when they face each other on Sunday?
And could Kirk Cousins and Justin Tucker lose their jobs with bad performances this week?
Detroit seems likable, too. Dan
They are
Campbell,
very
who I thought
likable.
was a bozo, I now think is a
Got it
fabulous
wrong
coach.
myself. Yeah, all the kneecap stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he's actually kind of a genius. But before Wilbon, BW should be the new BC. That's right.
It's time for toss-up. Two men enter, one man leaves, finishes the show, then tries but fails to sleep because he's too excited for tomorrow's semifinals of the Emirates Cup. What's first?
Yeah.
Toss up, which team has more to prove on Sunday? The Steelers or the Eagles?
So my temptation is to say the Steelers because the Steelers are 10-3 and the Eagles are 11-2. The Steelers are on the road in this, and they completely remade their quarterback room, and now they've got Russell Wilson, and a lot of people out there are wondering if he's going to turn to sand at some point. But in fact, the answer here, the team with more to prove, is the Eagles, and that's because they are publicly bickering. They are 11-2 and publicly bickering, so it's got to be serious, so they would have kept that in-house, and you would never have heard about it. Pablo, this is the same time of the season when last year the Eagles utterly collapsed. There won't be anybody at that game in that stadium that doesn't remember that. There won't be anybody at that game inside that stadium that isn't worried about it again. And that's why I think there's more pressure on the Eagles.
Yeah, it's rare that I get to tell you that the reason you're wrong about this is because you've underrated how right you are. If the question was, does Mike Tomlin have a single thing in the known universe left to prove, the answer would be no. Like, what he's done already, the chopped challenge of here are the ingredients. You get some Russell Wilson, you get some Justin Fields, you get some stuff, and you go and produce yet another 17 straight non-losing seasons. It's incredible. We're in the gravy zone for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, if we're being fair to how we thought about this entering the season. But the Eagles, again, the reason you're right is because, my God, like, it's not merely that the mess has spilled out, it's that the mess is grounded in truth. It hurts because it is Hurts. Because Jalen Hurts is a very flawed drop-back passer. And when the receivers are calling it out, the reason it stings is because they have a point. This is
next.
Toss up, more of a make or break week. Kirk Cousins or Justin Tucker?
All right, so Kirk Cousins has been dreadful lately. He's going to come back and get another chance. Whereas if Justin Tucker stinks the joint out, he probably has to go somewhere. And he's Kirk Cousins is not a Hall of Fame quarterback. Justin Tucker is a Hall of Fame kicker. Now, if he comes back after a bye and misses 2 or 3 field goals, I think they have to do something. If you don't cut him, put him on injured reserve, something. They're going to have to do something. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to be fine. But if you ask me who is in more jeopardy, I will tell you Justin Tucker ahead of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins is getting the support of the people who paid him $100 million guaranteed, which feels a bit tautological, right? Like, they're making the call. They're trying to justify their decisions and their job security. They made this decision. It's a terrible one, but they're going to give him every last inch of rope before they make the change. The Justin Tucker thing is especially interesting because he's not merely a Hall of Fame kicker. He's arguably the greatest of all time. And this has been a show in which we're sort of positing, is there something else when it comes to this odd behavior? We talked about with the Niner game. We talk about it here because it looks like he has the yips. Tony, This guy was famously precise. And now, in this season, in which kickers are better than ever, the wider story is not merely that kickers are good, it's that they all are playing like Justin Tucker used to, except for Justin Tucker. He is absolutely in jeopardy of losing that job.
Yeah, that's why I find myself rooting for him, because he was that good. He was that good. That's
Operatic.
it. Let's take one last break. Still to come. Notre Dame takes down UConn, just like someone on this show predicted. At least I had that.
Yeah. The Yankees.
Saying you're a moron. And what could I say? It's true.
And I believed you, which is maybe even more moronic.
Tonight on SportsCenter at
Happy time, people. Happy 22nd birthday, Brock Bowers. As the tight end of Georgia, Bowers was on 2 national champions, was All-American once, and twice won the John Mackey Award as the best college tight end in the country. The Raiders took Bowers with the overall 13th pick in this year's draft, and some were surprised he lasted that long. He's already got 87 catches for 933 yards, which is first among tight ends in those categories. He's second among all receivers in catches, 5th among all receivers in yards. And to be fair, on the Raiders, he's not getting thrown to by Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson. Bowers is in the mix for Offensive Rookie of the Year with Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix.
Yeah, the reason he fell was because he's a tight end. And you get a bargain if you take a quarterback on a rookie wage scale versus a veteran tight end salary, blah, 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 blah. Probably should have just taken him. He's the best guy in the draft. We know this now. I think we knew it then, too.
A not-so-happy anniversary, Jerry Jones. On this day 15 years ago, the Cowboys tried to broadcast their game in 3D on the giant replay boards inside Cowboys Stadium. But several fans reportedly got nauseated by the 3D, and the experiment was ended in less than 7 minutes. This season, fans at Jerry World don't need 3D glasses to feel nauseous. The Cowboys are handling that with their play on the home field. The Cowboys are a miserable 1-6 at home so far this season. This past Monday, they lost a game on a punt team debacle. At one point this season, the Cowboys trailed at home by at least 20 points in 6 straight home games. That's an NFL record.
It's a remarkable thing what the Cowboys have done in that building. They have tried to create obstacles in the most futuristic way, 3D, and also they've decided to wage a losing war against literally the sun. So they're getting it on both ends, really.
Happy trails to the UConn women's unbeaten season. The second-ranked Huskies fell to number 8 Notre Dame in South Bend, and I believe I had that one right. Irish star Hannah Hidalgo had 29 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists, which led UConn coach Gino Auriemma to say, quote, her talent is obvious, but I think more importantly is the way she attacks everything that she does. And I don't know that there are a lot of strategies that you can use, unquote. On the flip side of things, the Huskies shot just 3 of 16 from 3. And this was UConn's 3rd straight loss to Notre Dame.
Yeah, that last stat is the one that's most meaningful because maybe you just think, okay, UConn should be winning everything. They're still UConn. I'm a Yankee fan. I get it. No, Notre Dame, Hannah Hidalgo, they are legit. They have been for a long time.
You know, people have talked about her since the beginning of the year, Hidalgo.
Yes.
And I watched some of the clips of that game, and she just gets it from 3 and throws it up. It's a beautiful arcing shot most of the time. Now, I probably caught her on one of her great games, but she certainly had a great game. Let's go to the big finish if we could. This is your wheelhouse, the Yankees.
Yeah.
The Yankees traded for closer Devin Williams of the Brewers, and the Cubs traded for outfielder Kyle Tucker of the Astros. Which is the bigger deal?
I'm obviously going Devin Williams. I was there for Game 5 of this World Series. It was horrifying to watch who they put out there on the mound in relief. College hoops tomorrow, though. Number 8 Gonzaga, number 18 UConn at MSG, Madison Square Garden. Who you got?
I'm going to go with UConn on this one. This is a long way from home for Gonzaga, and that crowd is going to be really boisterous for UConn. The Dolphins parted ways with Odell Beckham Jr. Are you surprised?
Again, one of these name recognition things. Yes, I know who he is. I know his work. Also, 9 catches for 55 yards this season. Not surprised. Army-Navy tomorrow. Tony, are you intrigued?
Yeah, first of all, it's a great spectacle when the Corps marches in, when the midshipmen march in. They also are 19-4 combined this year. which is the most wins they've ever had going into this game. And Army is a ranked team. So, yeah, I am. Last one, the Emirates Cup semis tomorrow. Hawks, Bucks, Rockets, Thunder. Who you got, Pablo?
I will take the Hawks. I will take the Rockets. And if I've learned anything from today's show and yesterday's, probably also the under on both of those, just because I feel like the universe has told us something.
What a shot that is. What a shot right at me. We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Pablo Torre. Thank you so much for watching. Pablo Torre Finds Out is my show. It's on YouTube and stuff. Check it out. But for now, your Sports Center.
So wait, you're going to take the under in all of these games? You're going to take the under?
All of them.
That's pretty strict the way you do that.
TI bonus topic.
All right, Pablo. What's the most intriguing NFL game of the weekend?
So it's a big weekend, a lot of stakes in lots of places. Look, the Bills and the Lions feel like the layup choice to me. But if I'm being honest with you, what I will be doing on Sunday specifically is making sure that I have access, possibly due to some streaming service, to Chiefs-Browns. And I know the Chiefs are favored by about 6.5. I get it. This streak that they're on, though, where every game Kansas City plays is a nail-biter that tests the metaphysical possibilities of luck and football in the universe, I just need to see if they can do it again, because statistically speaking, this season, they're going to try and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, there are games, there are marquee games, and I think the number one game is Buffalo and the Lions. If the Lions were to win this game, be their second straight game at home that they won against a good team. They had beaten Green Bay the last time they were out there, and Buffalo was a good team. There's tremendous anticipation for the two Pennsylvania teams, for the Steelers at the Eagles. I mean, will the Eagles collapse? I mean, that is the unspoken context of this game. Will the Eagles collapse? There's another good game. I think Seattle-Green Bay is a good game because the last time we saw Green Bay, they were losing close and late in Detroit. And Seattle, I think they have won 3 in a row, something like that, and they got to stay ahead of the Rams. And this is going to be a real test for them, even though it's a home game in Seattle. But I will concede that I am intrigued by the Cowboys at the Panthers for this reason. The Panthers started out this season as the worst team in the NFL. Nobody was anywhere near as bad. They have not been favored in 33 straight games. They are favored. They're favored by 3, and Bryce Young has come back and done pretty well. But if the Cowboys were to lose this, the collapse of the Cowboys would be, that'd be the end of it. You lose to Carolina. Come on, stop it.
Right. I'm unsurprised on just one level. You've picked a game that you will be awake for. Pretty sure that's not the late game on Sunday or Monday.
No, that's not the feature one. That's not the feature game. No, it is not. No.
That is it for us, though. At this moment, we are done. Let's go to bed. Back to you.
Pardon the Interruption is brought to you by USB.